think they're showing that they're a force on the international stage.
Definitely. Well, let's see if Zhuangzi can make it a 4-peat. We're getting into the 4th game of the second lobby. Casters, take it away.
I'm sure it would be a wonderful sight for fans of China to see one of the representatives take away every single game here today. But as difficult as doing so for 3 games is, doing so for 4, let alone 5, is just that much harder. Hey, Primal, you weren't here with us the last game. How you feeling going into game number 4 of this lobby?
I'm feeling excited and blown away. I'm actually super excited to watch Zhuangzi more because it's rare that you see a player who can be this dominant and do it amongst the best players in the world. And he's dominant in a different way than I think Voltarius is, which is interesting. Voltarius was more creative and flexible. Like he was putting together comps that don't really have a name together, like the Victor stuff and the Xerath with Feast Glove. Whereas Zhuangzi's more just solid fundamentals every single game. His comps look like picture-perfect versions of what you would expect. So I'm really excited to see this guy play more.
I think we're all excited at that, and it's looking pretty good for us to get to see more of him beyond today as well. Remember, he has 24 points to his name, the lowest number of points to qualify in the first lobby being 25. Voltarius grabbing 31, so there's actually not that big a difference between Zhuangzi and trying to get as many points possible. Just for a statement. Doesn't really matter as far as making it through, but hey, Karan, isn't it great to make that statement when you can?
It definitely is. Literally, Zhuangzi could go 8th these next 2 games. Not saying he will, but he could, and have more points than, I believe, 2 players from Lobby 1 who advanced into Day 2. So Zhuangzi coming out, making a statement. I think it was amazing to see Whitrock's analysis there, specifically on that Space Pirates game, where Zhuangzi pivoted, I believe it was like 7 units, almost instantaneously. That was one of the best pivots I have ever seen in Teamfight Tactics history throughout, casting tournaments for the past year, playing, seeing all the great players play. That stands out. I love Zhuangzi. He's like so exciting for me as a person who loves TFT and loves casting it to watch.
I totally agree.
He's accumulating so many fans here today.
Right? We're all Zhuangzi fans today. But yeah, I think one of the cool things about that transition was the way that he did it from a mechanical perspective. In addition to just being fast, he was actually using hotkeys to get his units in. So you saw him go over his bench. I assume he pressed W or whatever it is on a Chinese keyboard to get everyone in. And then he positioned everyone appropriately. So yeah, it just shows you those little edges and how he even places his units different than most players make a big difference in the long term. But interesting to see a jeweled gauntlet slam. What do you think of that, Crone? Because usually I would look to slam Ionic here, but yeah, I'm curious what you think.
Honestly, I think that's kind of not screaming pirates again, but definitely makes me think about that. Jeweled Gauntlet was one of the items that Zhuangzi had on the Gangplank during that game. I think the Ionic Spark is what most players would do here. And you can't doubt Zhuangzi at this point. If he makes a decision, you have to be like, oh, I guess that's correct. So I'll be curious to see what route that does go, and if it does go into the Gangplank later.
I do wonder what that will be going to, being that he did decide to put that on the Darius, but doesn't exactly have online that completely would be like, hey, I've got all my pirates ready to go and try and ramp this up. But maybe some potentials for him to pivot into.
Okay, I got a hot take then. This might be heresy at this point. I think that's a mistake, honestly. Right? Because even if you're planning on playing Space Pirate, Ionic is super good in Space Pirate. And then you can save the glove for something a little bit more useful, like a Hand of Justice. So I think it's a little bit weird. That said, this guy took 3 firsts at Worlds, so I'm totally willing to be proven wrong. But it's hard for me to see the correctness in this play. But let's see.
Yeah.
The moment you want to doubt it, you look at those 3 wins.
Yeah, I'm going to be stricken by lightning right now, I'm pretty sure. But hey, I spoke my truth.
No. I like the bold prediction there. I think that it's something that I would gravitate towards, I would think is correct. And Zhuangzi, you can get 3 firsts and still... TFT is a game where there's always things you can improve on, and maybe that is one of them, regardless of, all of the other Zhuangzi's greatness that we've seen here. But is going to be losing a couple of rounds in the early game here. Doesn't quite have Pirates online, losing to Slooper's Syndra there, which is a very early Syndra. Going to be seeing some more of some Star Guardian action there.
Yeah, I did manage to have that early star Guardian online, the Poppy in the front. I believe it was a 2-star Zoe, and then that Syndra with the blue buff at this point. Not too much difficulty eliminating some of the units that don't quite have itemization or level ups just yet. But Zhuanzi now starting to scout, see what he's going to do beyond this. Right now, he's got the Vanguard just to try and take things a little more tanky if he does suffer more losses, mitigate the HP loss as much as possible.
Yeah, and you know, I think right now he did take two pretty huge losses, and the thing is he's on Plunder Planet, right? So in addition to just wanting to save HP, it's really important that you kill units here. This is a good win right here for him, but you know, at this point, you know, he has a Darius pair. It looks like he's pretty hard committed to Space Pirate per the Jeweled Gauntlet. You know, I think it's going to be really important for him to keep pace with the lobby in terms of levels. Because what happens in Plunder Planet is everyone else pushes early levels, and if you fall behind, you just sort of reach a point where you're not killing anything, and it snowballs out of control. So he's going to pick up the GA, which is amazing on Darius, and that's a core item. So I think he's definitely going the Space Pirate route, and eventually, hopefully, he can turn that cloak into an Ionic. And I'm guessing, you know, to his credit, if he wanted the Rod on Darius, that would be the reason not to make Ionic Spark. So yeah, maybe this guy's like, look, I really feel good on Space Pirate. I feel comfortable making, you know, items that are maybe suboptimal when you look at every comp, but best on this particular comp.
But why though? I know it did well for him obviously earlier, but it's just such a curious thing to commit to so early, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the longer the game goes on, we'll be getting more insight into how Zhuanzi is going to approach the game. Checking on AlphaGo here, we see some Cybers, some Chronos, a couple Brawlers as well. Early Vibe pair. Man, we were talking about this Vibe pair earlier, but AlphaGo choosing to hang on to it. It's not going to be, you know, causing of a loss of econ or anything. So I do like this right now. Maybe selling it eventually to get econ is correct, but it's it's okay for now.
I think they're just picking up the
Benefit from
Vibe
that
pairs to
extra
trigger
tankiness in the
Crone.
meantime.
For sure. But I think they just trying to bait Crone at this point, right? With the Vibe pairs. But, there was a bunch of question mark pinging in the lobby. I think Sox actually just got a Teemo 2 at 2-5.
Wait,
if I'm not mistaken.
Did he?
Which would be insane.
Hello, Socks?
Okay, we have to check that out.
Okay, no,
Wait,
is that a Teemo 1?
Oh my, no,
That's
it's
a Teemo 2,
it's
right?
Teemo 2.
Like, how does that even? Did you just get a
Socks,
triple
please?
Teemo? USA, baby, let's go. That's. Well, I don't even know how to react to that. I don't know if I've ever seen someone get a triple 4 cost at 3-5, but yeah, Sox is gonna if it's a game for him to take a first and bring himself back into contention, this is it.
What am I watching right now? Mismatch Socks. He wanted to be the faker of TFT, and with RNG like that, you very well can be Mismatch Socks. This is insane.
Right? He has a Nautilus
said,
too also.
"Yo."
What is going on here?
He like hit up Faker, said, all right, it is in the same client, you know, so what can I do to make it happy and give me what I want? I mean, the 2-star Teemo got the tier on it already to hopefully work into a blue buff in the future. The Nautilus for keeping him around so he can actually output that damage.
Yeah.
Just slam into that 1-star
falls.
Syndra.
But
Oh,
here's the thing,
Now
Syndra's
she's gonna
kind of
ult.
insane early. Yep, and Syndra
yeah.
won.
I mean,
She
she's
has
got the
blue
Rab
buff.
and the blue buff.
Yeah, she can kind of just do whatever she wants. So a little disappointing that he high rolled this hard and wasn't able to complete the win streak, but still a good spot. He even has half of a Morello's per that belt. I think I'm really hoping at this point that Sox just chooses to play Astro Sniper because I think he's a little bit closer to Astro Sniper than he is Star Guardians. But he could, you know, conceivably choose to just go Star Guardians because he does have 2 Nikos, and Bramble Vest is good on Nico. So I don't know, Crone, from this spot, what would you do?
I think rolling the Teemo 2, you kind of have to commit. Teemo is going to be the unit that's carrying you oftentimes harder than the Jhin. All you really need to do is find one Jhin, and you can probably, once you get the blue buff and the Morellos, even, you know, fast 9, and just be able to put in just such a strong overall composition. You have a Nautilus 2 frontline, you know, get some more Vanguards, keep with these snipers. It's a little bit maybe frustrating from Sox's point of view to not be able to win streak into that Terra Burster round, so you lose a bit of of gold there, but you're still overall happy with this position if you are Mismatch Sox.
Hell yeah, I would be. 90 HP to the name and a good balance of damage as well as frontline to keep yourself in it. It looks like he is deciding to pivot away from the Nico for the meantime because Nautilus, while a 2-star, could benefit from some more of that tankiness, gets the Bramble Vest on him. And all snipers over here in the right corner, hoping no one's going to target just yet. Zephyr onto the Teemo.
Yeah, at this point, it's like, just commit, right? Like, I agree with Crone. You're so far along the Asher Sniper's path. Even if he might be a little bit more comfortable with Star Guardians, I'm not sure based on him playing it the previous games. This is just so easy from this point. And since he got a tier so early, he's likely to get a second tier, which is sort of the win condition to take a first place with it. But even without blue buff, you don't necessarily need blue buff to top 4. But if I'm Sox at this point, I'm selling everything that doesn't fit into my end comp, getting as much money as possible to find that Bard or that Gnar to commit Astro, and win streak into glory.
Yeah, no, it's a super good point to bring up. And also, like, I think the important thing to bring up is the reason that Teemo 2 has lost 2 rounds in a row at this point is because of that lack of Astro. As soon as a Gnar or Bard is found, you're going to see Mismatch Sox be, you know, a lot stronger, and especially so once that blue buff is achieved. Already has a Last Whisper to put on a Jin later, just has Caitlyn holding it for now. But yeah, just going back to the point that Sox is in a really good spot here. Just needs to hit a couple more power spike thresholds, and it'll just be, you know, home free sailing from there.
Luckily was able to stand strong enough early on so that he does have a lot of that HP pool to work with. Not too worried about taking these hits now as the lobby is still pretty close all the way through, and the Astral will make a big difference. And I don't think we've seen a lot of others going for it either throughout the day, huh?
Yeah, Astro Mystic is kind of weird in that no one ever seems to prioritize it, but if you can get rolling early enough, it's a very, very snowbally build. And this is the definition of getting rolling early enough when you hit a Teemo 2 this early. But it is a comp where, you know, you have to be really careful with positioning. It can be kind of skill intensive to figure out, do I backline my front line so that I don't get assassinated by infiltrators? You got to think about, how do I position Karma so she's getting the shield on Teemo? So it is a comp with some pretty nuanced positioning, but I think it's actually not the worst thing in the world that Sox is not winning consistently, because that means he's more likely to be able to get his second tier, because second tier might be hard to get in this lobby overall, given that there's at least 1, maybe 2 Star Guardian players.
Speaking of those Star Guardian players facing off against one right now, and there's actually quite a high level of protectors that were surrounding the Syndra and the Ahri so that they didn't have to worry about taking too much damage early, resulting in quite a victory over there for the Star Guardian Sorks. And plenty on this carousel too. 1 single tier for somebody to grab.
Yeah, KC Double grabbing that. KC Double was the Star Guardian player. I actually did want to take a look at KC Double in a little bit here, because during KC Double's qualifying rounds to get to this tournament, had a couple of not great placements in the first couple of games, but then really ramped it up the last 3. So is this the point where KC Double is kind of, you know, shaking off those nerves and is ready to power spike? Being contested in his composition might give a little bit more nerves there, but I'd be curious to see if he's able to stabilize and to earn some more points to get into tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think to your point, you know, when a player goes down early in a tournament but is able to come back super strong like KC Double did in the EU qualifier, it just shows that they have a really strong mental game, and they don't tilt easily. So, you know, he's been in this position before. He should feel like, okay, I know my game. I can play it from this point. But he does need to take, I think, probably top 2 at least one of those games in order to confidently advance. Right now, you know, Sox... he picked up a sword, which I really like, because that gives him an item that he can complete for Jin later in the game. Of course, he would have preferred a tier, but there was only 1 tier and there were no rods for the Morellos. So he's just looking toward later in the game and trying to set himself up for a good backline. But again, if he does not hit the blue buff, he is going to sort of run into a little bit of a wall in terms of his damage.
And to confirm with you on that, Mismatch Stocks is currently 5th in terms of points, 12 points to his name. Cupiditas right above at 14. So he is on that borderline to try and get himself into the top 4 to make it to tomorrow. But you got to admire the commitment here to the snipers, obviously, as a result of the Teemo. As you said, building that last whisper on the Ashe to potentially transition onto a Jhin later on in the game if he chooses to do so. I'm also wondering, so Juan?
Go ahead, Tigress.
Go ahead. Well, I was actually just going to make a note on Juan Z being down there in the bottom, 38 HP after that heavy commitment of items onto the Darius.
Yeah, I mean, we see him now, right? Now he has a Darius who is still level 1. Juan Z hasn't rolled at all. So I don't know. I really feel like this is not the way to play Space Pirate. Because generally, the things that made him so potent in the past games were that he was win streaking, he had a lot of HP. When you have a lot of HP, you can wait to hit GP, you don't need to hit it immediately. But now, assuming that Zhuangzi is looking to play Space Pirate, if he gets unlucky and he whiffs and he does not hit GP, he's going out 8th. So this is a rough spot. Additionally, because he chose not to make the Ionic Spark and instead chose to go for Jewel Gauntlet, he has a pretty inconsistent Darius, who's not going to be really... inconsistent carry, and he doesn't have damage that's very reliable. So he needs a bit of luck now, I think, to get out of this position, but it might be that he has a lot of gold. Haven't seen.
A lot of gold and a lot of cushion for him in the competition in general, speaking when you're thinking about which players have the most pressure on them during this particular game, number 4 of 5 within this lobby. And we are going to get to check in and see how his comp has developed since the first time we saw it. 'Cause as you said, that Darius commitment earlier, God. That Jeweled Gauntlet was there right from the start.
Dude, this is so all in. He just went 8 at 4-1, and he just rolled down. So he's been hard lose streaking, making Pirate Gold. Curran, I don't know. This is like limit testing Space Pirate, right? I don't know. I don't have the balls to ever make this kind of play, even in ladder. So what do you think of this? Is this a stylistic thing, or? I hear you loud and clear.
I hear you.
Yeah, 13 HP. So at this point, he needs to convert all that skill he showed into the last few games into luck. Because if he does not hit the GP at this point, there's not really... The problem with Space Pirate is there's not really a great pivot option, right? Like, you don't really have somewhere that you can easily transition. And I think this is it. This might be 13 damage. Yep, he's out. Hard 8th.
Was ready to take the headset off. Last time we saw him get up prematurely, it was a stylistic choice to do so when he was taking that number 1 spot. This time he'll be relaxing a bit on the side, which does put him up to 25 points, which is the minimum number of points to qualify from the first lobby. But it's not like that's a cutoff number, right? That you hit it and you automatically go through. Should other people blow out of the water in these last 2 remaining games, you don't want to find yourself on the outskirts. Of course, there is a final 5th game after this to try and completely reverse the fortunes of the 8th place finish here.
Yeah, I think it just shows you what can happen. Like, oh, go ahead.
Nope, you.
Okay, sorry.
You go. Now you go.
Okay, no, you. Okay, I'll go. So I was just saying, it just shows you how you sort of do have to read the situation that you're in, and you can't really force a comp. Particularly one like Space Pirates like that, when you don't have an ideal opener for it. I think he baited himself a little bit off of his super successful game with it before, but I think the circumstances were different. I think the Galaxy was even different. And you know, when you commit something like a Jeweled Gauntlet, it's not particularly versatile, so it doesn't leave you with many outs. But I'm sure he'll recover next game. He has a huge cushion to work with, so I don't think he's worried about going out bot 4. But yeah, it just shows you that no matter how good you are at the game, you still got to respect the rules.
Yeah, and I have a feeling he's not too worried either. I just would kind of want to know what his thought process was there, right? Because we were looking at the board, and you even said that that looked, in your opinion, like a mistake, and it didn't seem like there was any major indication that he should be going in that direction as he did previously, being how different the conditions were. But decided to commit to it. It didn't work out. I doubt he'll repeat that mistake again in the next time around. And he does still have another China representative still in this lobby, AlphaGo at 50, but we are riding along with double 61 this time. Star Guardian, a couple of the Syndras have been built, it looks like, to the 2-star for some of the players in this lobby. And what do you make of what you're seeing on this board, Primal? Kind of our first check-in here with Double in a while.
I think Double looks pretty good. His items on Nico are awesome. He has okay items in Syndra. That'll be the only thing I'm concerned about. Like he really wants a blue buff here, ideally a damage item. So it might be that that glove turns into a jeweled gauntlet if you can get a single rod. And then him hitting a tier, he's just relying on luck at this point. But definitely much stronger showing than he's had the prior few games. And at the end of the day, I would say Nico is probably a bit more important than Syndra anyway. Because at the end of the day, you can hit Xerath to sort of top off your damage. Janna can just hard carry your team through utility and sort of ancillary damage. So if I'm Double, I'm feeling pretty good right now, but he does need some good items to put him over the top and look at it first.
And Nico saying, I am here to absorb the pressure, to lock down CC, let Syndra and everyone else do whatever the heck they want to do across here. So he doesn't have to worry about those tanky items anymore. But you're right, hoping to build into a blue buff and start getting some of the power behind Syndra. Having the GA to keep her alive to cast more frequently is great, but you do want those casts to hit as hard as possible. It's also nice to have the Soraka, what you're always looking for, to have that sustain as well. And facing off against a mech composition that Panda's running.
Yeah, and Panda's running mech with Xerath backline, which is definitely unique. A lot of players wonder why people play Victor as the sorcerer in mech, and it's pretty much because Victor is way more consistent to hit 2-star because he's a 4-cost. It's very hard to get a Xerath too. And B, Victor works super well with pretty much just a Morellos, because Victor's primary purpose there is just to spread Morellos on as many of the enemy team as possible. So Xerath, he might have just gone for Xerath because he only had a Rage Blade in terms of backline items, which is much better on Xerath, and he might not have hit the Victor too. So it's a good adaptation, but you generally want the Victor instead.
I do believe we have Crowan back with us here on the cast. We got you, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, welcome
should
back.
be all good to go now. Thank you very much. Yeah, double 61, still win streaking for a while. Now we were just talking about, he needs those other items like that blue buff to be able to stabilize here, but it seems as though double quite has picked up the pace and gets that blue buff, that blue sentinel right there. Good RNG. Feels good, man.
Just hits.
Yeah, love to see it.
You love to see it. And I think the great thing about Double's position is he actually doesn't even need to roll at 8, right? He already has Nico 2, he has Syndra 2, he has Janna in there. So you can go straight to 9, look for Janna 2, look for Xerath, and just put a cap on the game. So Double's in a really strong position. And we haven't seen Star Guardians win any lobbies, but I think if there were any position to win from, it would be this. Because to speak about the lack of Gunblade on Syndra, he can just pick up any AP item on Carousel and make up for the lack of Gunblade. But Sox, it looks like something went wrong here because he hit blue buff and hit Morellos on Teemo, but he is looking at a bot 2. Not sure what happened here.
Oh, no. Yeah, last time we checked in with him, he was still looking for the Jin. This time he had the Jin with the last Whisper that he transferred over from the Ashe and did manage to get the IE, but it does feel like he did take a lot of damage up to that point. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a very recent thing to happen, being that he was on a 5-round loss streak prior to this. Finally starting to get in a position, but 16 HP isn't that much to lean on when you're here at the bottom of the lobby.
Yeah, man, I wonder how this game went for Sox here, because rolling that Teemo 2 on stage 2, you would never think that a player like that is going to be in this position that Sox is here. So definitely took a long time, I would assume, to get those items online. Maybe even it took a long time to get those Astros line here. But this is the point where Sox is spiking. There is still only a Wukong 1 and a Jin 1, so he's not as strong as he would like. But Lulu 2 is still pretty good. Gets a couple of Mystic from there. Has a couple of Chronos. You know, this is the standard competent synergies. Is it enough for Sox, though, to stabilize?
Yeah, I'm not sure because we're getting pretty late into the game at this point. You generally want that front line. I think he's having a big front line issue right now. When you're playing 4 Sniper and 2 Mystic, and you have a Wukong 1, who's standing in between you and the Teemo? Sorry, between the Teemo and the enemy. So I think at this point it's going to be hard to win streak to first. Certainly looking at a top 4 finish probably at best. But it might have been that Sox didn't roll early enough to stabilize and might have played a little bit greedily to get down to this point.
Yeah, and you can't really roll because you didn't really have money. Taking those 3 Teemos early is going to put a little dent in your econ there.
And he does have to get top 4 pretty much to have any chance of moving on to tomorrow. And I think the fact that he was focused so much on the Teemo, being excited about getting that 2-star early, spending that money, you would hope that you would get some more upfront value from it. But when we were watching those rounds, he was still losing narrowly in a way that wouldn't encourage you to pivot off of it because you hope that you're able to kind of close that gap soon. But it doesn't look like that gap was closed very quickly. And now sitting on this last bit of HP, still slamming hard.
I'm worried. Doubles comp is pretty strong here.
Yeah. Let's see. No.
Oh, the Ash Arrow missed?
Oh, no. Ash, come on. This Ash.
That
the
Ash anti-synergy there. Yeah. The
Yeah.
Lulu Poly.
The polymorph.
Oh man, the Lulu Poly made the unit bounce around, so the Ash Arrow missed. That's not some mechanics you want to see for your TFT team there.
We need to look into their PayPal.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's win trading. I think someone's anti-America, but yeah, I think to Krone's point earlier, here's the thing with Teemo 2. It's not like an automatic win because Teemo 2 he kind of has he's a needy unit. Right, like he needs Astro online to sort of do multiple ults. He needs blue buff to make use of the small mana pool that you get when you hit Astro. And when we last left Sox, he didn't have Astro buff in, even though he had Nautilus, so he didn't hit a Bard. And he didn't have blue buff either. So it might have been that he just continued to lose because he didn't have either the synergy or the item that could help him stabilize, and maybe waited too long to roll. Which is certainly an understandable play when you feel like you just should be strong, but I think everyone knows in TFT, sometimes you feel like you should be strong, but you're missing one just like key synergy that puts you over the top, and it can be super frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of small kind of minor things that have contributed in an attempt to salvage that, right? You've got 4 Sniper with this Kaylin. You're waiting for your Jin to get a little more online, hoping that damage output will be enough.
Oh no!
Yeah.
It's looking
Is
close.
this it?
Get the chance though.
Is this
No.
it? No!
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, Jin,
more
please!
shot?
Oh no!
Okay, he survived. He survived.
He survived.
He survived to 2
He's
HP.
alive. He's gonna hit Jin 2
he's
right
like-
now.
You close your eyes. You couldn't bear to look.
Do you even
I
make
was
this
like
thrash?
on the edge of my seat.
I don't think you even make this
Celisara
thrash.
can make the thrash here.
Yeah? What is he pulling
I
in?
think you do. I mean, you're only pulling in a Gen 1, right? But still, just the base stat line of having, we were talking about earlier, you need the front line to be able to, be that wall between your Jin, your Teemo, and the enemy there. The Wukong 2 was hit, so that's a little bit better. And then the Thresh 2, just base HP increase, is kind of necessary. These fights are going to be going so fast at this point in the game, they're really only going to be able to, drag 1 unit in, maybe 2. But Gen 1's kind of all you got working for you right now. Like, this Syndra is going to start bursting units, the fight's going to be really fast.
Yeah, and I guess when you're at 2 HP, you can't afford to be picky. But yeah, it looks like Sox is going to win this fight. Very close, but I do think he's got it. He survives to fight another day, get some more econ, hopefully hit that Jin 2, maybe get some more impactful units on the bench. So he could sneak a top 4. It's close, though. It's close, but he's a very clutch player. So he can do it. And QSS, not exactly what you want to see, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible. You could toss that on Jin or Kilo and just corner them.
Yeah, and that's when it comes to Jin or some, just making sure that they can stay a bit protected. I love seeing these really close fights when he's at 2 HP, because even in that one, it seemed like it was hinging a lot on a really good knock up the Wukong moving forward that set up some good follow-up damage from the back line to keep him in it. So hoping those moments still come true to him after this.
Well, a
So
really
let's see who
positive
he ends up putting
development.
this on.
Yeah, a really positive development here is he does have the Urgot. He wants that Karma because Karma's really, really good with Teemo. Allows Teemo to get a lot more cast. So I think he's got to find a way to play this Karma. I'm not sure how. Maybe he I actually don't know. I guess he can't really fit it, can he? I guess he's just looking for
unless you're dropping the 2 snipers, you can't really fit it in at this point reliably, or dropping a Thresh, but it's a Thresh too, so you're not going to want to drop that at that point.
Yeah, so I guess you just
Facing
play it off the
against
bench.
Double 61.
Oh, man.
Every round is so stressful when you're at 2
It's very
HP, since
stressful.
we're following along with him, right?
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
especially
that's
stressful
hitting hard.
versus
The GA ends
Syndra.
up getting
Oh,
caught.
no, Ash again? What are you doing?
But it's okay. It's okay,
Okay,
though.
we're good. We're good. Sorry, I'm
We
getting a little
Gucci.
too invested.
Someone really
No,
is
that's-
PayPaling this Ash. Holy man.
For real, though. I mean, you can't
yeah.
help but get more invested when you're kind of following along from that perspective. And I feel like I'm not exactly sure what's going on Cupiditas' side, but he's been streaking, and so maybe potentially happy for Mismatch Socks that he didn't have to go into that. But that Syndra was looking scary for a moment.
Yeah. And we should note, this is a really close lobby in terms of standings, because Zhuangzi dominated so hard as well as AlphaGo. Zhuangzi is like way ahead of everyone else, and then everyone, I think, 2nd through 6 is separated by 2 points. So not top 4ing here is not necessarily the end of the world, but there's definitely a lot of pressure at this point. And every single fight, you're looking, okay, is Syndra's just going to instantly delete my Teemo, or do I sneak in there? It looks like he gets a 5th, which I think is an okay result. Kind of disappointing considering how strong his start was, though.
Yeah.
Man, I totally forgot Zhuangzi ended up getting 8th in this one too, because it feels like forever ago. And it might open up some opportunities though, because Mismatch Socks did just go out in 5th place, but technically, based on the way everyone is going out right now, he's still in that middle portion. So we'll have to see how these kind of top 3 end up finishing between Double and the rest.
Yeah, it's a little bit worse for Mismatch Socks that Zhuangzi actually went 8th here, because you want the person who's already clearly in 1st to keep on winning there. This is going to be a tight race for sure, with the standings being so close. AlphaGo here gets destroyed by KC Double's Star Guardian composition there, so it's just KC Double versus Slooper.
Yeah, and we finally are seeing
a
Star
lot of the same
Guardians
names
pop
in these
off.
top, huh?
We
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to wait
Yeah.
all day. But
Yeah, it's
finally
nice to see some new names in the top 2, and this is a weird matchup, right? I think I mentioned earlier, but because of the way Syndra orbs work, sometimes you actually want your Syndra to cast later. You don't really have control over that, unless you're gonna go straight into a Shroud, which is kind of a grief. I don't know, Crone, when you're in a mirror matchup like this, what's the big thing to look out for to try to increase your chances of winning?
Man, this mirror match in specific is so, awkward, because I don't think there is much room to do things with positioning. I think the one thing that you can do, which we see Double 61 here do, in fact, is place the Lulu towards the front. It's tier 2'd, it's going to be able to take damage, going to be able to get those polys out, and hopefully the polys land on good units, and it does there. It doesn't poly the Janna, of course, because she has the QSS. Yeah, but that's maybe a Lulu diff here?
Yeah,
I mean, that other Lulu got slammed pretty early.
Nope.
Couldn't poly anyone, I don't think, but it doesn't matter when the hard hit comes in. 3 HP for Double right now.
And, it's, as Crow was saying. Go ahead, Kron.
Oh, I was just gonna say the Lulu diff there actually isn't enough versus the RNG of the Syndras. Like, even having the GA as to not get one shot didn't matter there. It's just maybe the Gunblade on the other side there from Slooper is gonna be more effectively valuable than GA. Even Slooper now hitting Lulu 2 of his own. It just comes down to Jannas, Syndras, and Lulu Polys, I guess. The main things, at least.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just got to call it like it is. It's kind of a highly RNG dependent matchup. Unfortunately, it's one of the few very RNG dependent matchups I think in the game. But yeah, the weird thing is because the Syndra has a GA, it's actually can not be super great sometimes, because I'd actually rather have my Syndra just have more uptime and never have to go through that long revive animation before she spawns, because while one Syndra is spending all that time reviving, the other Syndra might just one-shot, but it just got completely reversed, and now I look dumb, and now this Syndra is smurfing out the other Syndra, so flip a coin, I guess, and we'll see who wins.
That's why I'm so hesitant to call these mirror matchups between Star Guardians here, because it's actually just whatever Syndra decides to target. You actually can't make accurate predictions here. It kind of... While TFT does come down to a lot of nuances of positioning and stuff, this is one matchup where that just actually doesn't matter as much. Of course, Slooper is rolling down for Nico 3. Even right now on the Rift Herald round, probably wants to hit it before he's denied more by Casey Double, because Casey Double does have 6 Nicos there. So both players theoretically could get Nico 3. It's unlikely that both will, but Slooper is very close.
Yeah.
And
all right,
Slooper and Double 61 with 15 and 11 points respectively, so a bit tight for them when trying to fight for those top spots.
For sure. So, there's an Nico 3. Okay, if there's anything that can make a difference, that's it. Unfortunately, can't get the Warmogs there. That's a little bit of a hover of frustration. I think he realized if he had actually put the Warmogs on the Nico on the bench, put that Nico in and then made Nico, there was a chance to make... I said Nico a lot there. There was a chance to put Warmogs on the Nico 3.
There's lots of Nicos.
Yeah, the last Nico. So that's actually a small oversight that could end up making the difference. We'll see if it matters here. So watch the Syndras here, and let's see who targets whom.
Which Syndra will come out on top? The last battle?
Oh, one shot. Again.
Oh.
What's going on? Okay, double win.
The NATOs.
The moment he one-shot that Syndra, it was over.
Yeah.
But well played by Double.